We also want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Go to hometownticketing.com and they're going to show you how to sell your tickets online. They'll show you how to scan the attendees that come to your games and collect your revenue. And every step of the way, you're going to have a dedicated client success manager that provides hands-on support. That's every step of the way. Go to hometownticketing.com. They'll also show you how to set up and sell tickets for things like school dances, your performing arts productions, music concerts, even graduation. Go to hometownticketing.com and start selling your tickets digitally. That's hometownticketing.com. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest is Kenny Edwards, and he's the Director of Athletics at Merrimack Valley High School in New Hampshire. Kenny, we always like to let our guests give a shout out to the mentors, the people that have helped them along the way. None of us get to where we're at on our own. So who are some of the people that have helped you?
Well, I think my first mentor had to be my father. He was a high school basketball coach, a high school physical education teacher for well over 35 years. Kind of stayed in two different schools for his entire career. So he taught me the value of stability, the value of building relationships and working in one spot and trying to build programs. He also taught me the value of being friends with other coaches. So it's not always an adversarial relationship, but it's more you're working together to do what's best for the kids while competing. So those are some interesting things I learned from him. My second mentor was a gentleman by the name of Tom Dolan. Tom is since retired. He was the associate director of the Virginia High School League. He was in charge of compliance. Tom was also the very first athletic director at Jamestown High School in Williamsburg, where I also worked. So Tom helped me as I became an administrator. He answered questions for me, countless questions on compliance and how to make sure we're staying within the rules, and then the various nuances that came with being at Jamestown, because he had walked that walk for 7 years. So he could help me through my journey at Jamestown as well. The third person I'd like to mention would be David Rhodes. David is the director of athletics for the city of Virginia Beach. And David was my very first athletic director as a head basketball coach. I worked with David for 11 years at Frank Cox High School in Virginia Beach. And David taught me the value of listening. And he also taught me that no matter what happens, you have to maintain your composure. You have to think through situations and you react calmly. As a young basketball coach, I was all over the place. I'm not as emotionally stable, or I wasn't as I am now, I'd like to think. And so David would always calm me down. He would talk me through situations, and he never lost his cool, never lost his temper. So he taught me the value of listening, the value of building relationships, but also maintaining composure. And then the final person is a gentleman named Dwayne Peters. Dwayne is also since retired. He was the athletic director at Dominion High School in Loudoun County, also Heritage High School in Newport News. Dwayne is the gentleman responsible for getting me involved in the VIAAA, the Virginia Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association. He moved up to be the president-elect and pulled me into the board of directors as our region rep. And from there, it just kind of moved very quickly. But Dwayne is a gentleman that kind of convinced me that I could do that, and I could be the right person for that position. He mentored me along the way. And even to this day, he's still in Virginia. I'm in New Hampshire. I call Dwayne and talk to him about different issues. And he's just been a great friend over the years. So those would be the four gentlemen that influenced me the most in my career.
Boy, again, our regular listeners hear me say this all the time. I just love hearing the stories, and I love that you still are in touch with some of your mentors. That's very cool. And you made a great transition to our next segment. You talked about getting involved with the Virginia Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association. Talk a little bit about that journey. We have, younger ADs, newer ADs that listen, and I think it's important that they hear about the journey that, we all take with our state and with our national organization. So go through that if you can.
Well, the very first step is I got involved at the state level, and I let it be known to the other ADs as soon as I became an athletic director that I was willing to get involved. And I didn't care at what level. I just wanted to be a part of something, to get to know other ADs, to try to become a better AD myself. And like I said, Dwayne kind of pulled me in as a region rep on our board of directors. I was there for 5 years, and then I decided to try to become president-elect. I felt like I could bring something more to the organization. I was fortunate there. I will say that the very first year I applied for it, I did not get it, which is fine. But it kind of helped me through that process, and helped me learn where I need to grow and to get better in order to get to that level. So the second year I became president-elect was 2021. And then the next year, which was actually last year, 2021-22, I served as president of the Virginia Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association, which to me was, I'm very proud of what we accomplished last year. And I say we because it was the board of directors that really decided we were going to move the VIAAA from the era of COVID, where we met virtually or hybrid. Our goal from the very beginning was to have our state conference in March completely in person. And if you remember, a year ago, we were still struggling with masks and things like that. So for us to do this involved a lot of cooperation, a lot of belief, a lot of trust that we could get this thing going. And we had an outstanding executive director in Bob Stratton, who really moved us forward, who listened to all my ideas, no matter how crazy they were. And we ended up making it happen in March. And soon after that, I interviewed at Merrimack Valley and decided to accept the job up here. Technically, I'm still the immediate past president in Virginia. I know that they can call me and I'll do anything in the world for them, but I'm also more involved now with the New Hampshire Athletic Directors Association, which is a really interesting story. As soon as I got the job at Merrimack Valley, I actually called Mike McGurk, who's president of the NIAAA, because I know that Mike was a Virginia AD who transitioned to Missouri. And so I emailed Mike. I said, Mike, do you have any advice, anything you can help me with? And he put me in touch with the executive director in New Hampshire, Carol Dosbury.
Right.
And Carol, from the very beginning, was so nice, so welcoming. She invited me up to their state conference, which happened to be at the end of May. So, I already had the job at Merrimack Valley. I wasn't starting until July 1. So I decided to take a day and just, fly up there, go to the conference for a day and see if I can meet as many people as I could. And everybody was so welcoming, so nice, from Mike DeSilitz, who's the president of the NHADA. There were just so many wonderful people that just welcomed me and introduced me to everybody. So that was a tremendous experience. I've told the NHADA the same thing I told the VIAAA, that I'm just willing to get involved. I'll start at the ground level. It really doesn't matter. I just want to help and do what I can to make the organization great.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing that. And that's the message that we continually try to get out to athletic directors of all ages, that you need to take that first step. You need to go to the conference. You need to introduce yourself to people. You don't become president of a state association by accident. You work through that process. And whether you become president or not, every state association is looking for people to volunteer, to be on committees, to introduce speakers. So great message. Thanks so much for sharing that. Once again, for our listeners, our guest today is Kenny Edwards, Certified Master Athletic Administrator, and he's the Director of Athletics and Activities at Merrimack Valley High School in Penacook, New Hampshire. We're going to take another break, but please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank our good friends at Snap Mobile for their support. It's a tremendous platform and has a lot of different features. Go to OnSnap, that's onsnap.com, onsnap.com, and check out all the things that Snap can do for you and your program. They have fundraising. They've got organizational platforms. Snap Mobile is the parent company. And again, for more information, go to onsnap.com, or you can contact your local Snap Mobile representative to get the support you need. That's onsnap.com. You can get all the information that you need From a fundraising platform, our coaches used Snap Raise, and it was just fantastic. As an athletic director, I knew what was going on, but I wasn't involved. So once again, go to onsnap.com and get started with their great platform. We also want to thank our good friends at Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school's record boards for all teams, for all the events, or a great way to display your school's Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. They've got a variety of interactive touchscreen consoles and a library of templates to help recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. Let them help you showcase your school's diverse history and your proudest moments. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com or email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com to get started. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Kenny, one of the things that we try to do with this podcast is the idea of sharing best practices. So I'm going to put you on the spot. What are some things that you've done at the schools where you've been the athletic director, or maybe some things you're doing right now at Merrimack Valley that you're particularly proud of that you would put in that category of best practices?
Well, sure. I think one of the things that I started at Jamestown and I've continued at Merrimack Valley is a weekly athletic newsletter. And that I find that that is so important because it disseminates information rather quickly and it puts it all at the fingertips of our readers, our constituents, which are our parents, our students, our coaches, our teachers, admin, school board. Everyone can find information rather quickly. And it's kind of morphed over time and developed into something that I'm really, really pretty happy with. Now, I'm still trying to make it better each week. But when I was at Jamestown, I just created a simple Word document and we emailed that. We changed parts of it and emailed it. Since I've come to the Valley, we've created a document, a living document on S'more, which is a little bit easier to transfer pictures, to transfer video, to create a little bit more graphics. And it's been something I've had a lot of fun with. And we've sort of developed it and we're adding things to it each week here at the Valley. And it's been very well received. I've gotten some suggestions from folks on how to make it better, which is always a good thing because that means they're reading it and they're trying to help it get better. They're invested in it, which is something that I like. So I would recommend that for any new AD. It's another form of communication. It gets your message out. And for me, I help shape my vision of where I think Valley athletics should be in 5 or 10 years, with sportsmanship, with competition, with motivation, with our participation numbers, all of those things that I think are so important as we continue to move this outstanding program forward. I want to use that newsletter to kind of shape my vision and allow people to have some insight into where I think we're moving in the next couple of years. And that's been really important for me personally to be able to get that message out. The other thing that we've done is we've enhanced our social media presence a little bit more here at the Valley. We've gotten on Instagram, which this is the first time I've ever used Instagram in the high school setting. And it's become a lot of fun. I'll take pictures at games and I'll post those. And now we're starting to get to the point where parents or coaches will send me pictures of events, especially away events that I can't make. And we'll definitely include those on our Instagram page. We like to send something out each day. We call it game day, where we send something out announcing the games for that day, trying to draw interest. And we're very fortunate. We do not charge admission for any home events other than football and basketball. So we're wide open in terms of allowing our students to come, our community to come and see the events. So for us, it's important to get that information out so that they know when we're playing and they can be at events. And we have great community support. Some other things that we've started to develop is a parents' night, where we've tried to put a little spin on it, where we've involved our athletic trainer to talk about concussion protocol and our return to play. We've involved different students to help us get our message across in terms of sportsmanship. So these are some creative things that we're constantly trying to improve and add on. And I will say that Valley Athletics was in a great position when I got here. They had a tremendous athletic director named Kevin O'Brien, who had been here for 35 years and did a fantastic job of just laying the foundation and building this program. So really, my job is to come in and take what he did and try to enhance it and create memorable experiences for our student athletes moving forward. But Valley is an incredible place, and it's just fun to be able to add things and enhance what was already in place.
No, absolutely. And I love the comments that you made about, the getting your message out there, because, kids or parents, they're going to talk. And, if you don't give them anything to talk about, they're going to figure out their own thing. So again, I know it's a
Right.
cliche, but it's so true, taking control of the narrative and making that narrative your own. Great stuff. Great advice. Kenny, you and I were talking during the break about the officials shortage that every state is experiencing. I thought you had some good comments. Can you share some of those with our listeners?
Sure. The referee shortage is real. It was real in Virginia and it's real in New Hampshire. Unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of great officials cycle out of officiation or officiating because of either retirement or injury or just the whole COVID pandemic has changed the landscape of high school sports a little bit. And we're at a very crucial time in high school athletics in terms of gathering officials. In 2018, I went down to the national conference in San Antonio, and we were struggling with some sportsmanship issues concerning officials at Jamestown. I heard a couple of ADs talking about a program called Thank a Ref program. And so I picked their brain a little bit about it. And I really like what I heard. And I spent the next couple of days really trying to expand that idea on how we could use it to help our programs at Jamestown, not only with sportsmanship, but with also creating opportunities for referees to get more involved and letting them know we're thankful for them. So I got back to Jamestown. We started a program called the Thank a Ref program, and we use it to make sure that we let our referees know how thankful we are that they're there, that they are calling games, that they're working with high school athletics. And this was all pre-pandemic. And so coming out of the pandemic, coming up to Valley, it's one of the things that I want to continue. It's a tradition I want to start here is the Thank a Ref program. And basically what you do is it's really simple. We just had a big poster that said thank you from fall sports. And we had all of our fall sports athletes sign it. We would laminate it, and then we would put it up at different fall sports venues where we were having our Thank a Ref night. And we would announce the referees before the game. We would take a picture, we put it out on social media with the caption, thank you to three of the best referees in the state. We wouldn't list their name, obviously, but we would have their picture there. And we would just try to promote being a referee. At our ticket table that night, and what we'll do at Valley is we'll put it at our entrance table. We would have a QR code from the NFHS that our spectators could use their phone to get into the QR code to find out how to become a referee in the sport that they like. And we make different PSA, public service announcements during the games, letting our spectators know, hey, if you're interested in becoming a referee, it is a job. You do get paid. It's a lot of fun. Here's who to contact. And we would try to push it that way. And that's kind of the program that we eventually want to bring to Valley as well, where we're thanking our referees, letting them know that they're appreciated. And then it's also helped us from a sportsmanship standpoint because it lets the parents and the students know that the referees are human as well. There's a human side to them. They're not just calling games randomly or arbitrarily, and they don't care about the student athletes. It's quite the opposite. They're doing it because they care about the student athletes. They're refereeing because they care about the state of high school sports. And that's our message that we're trying to get out. And as I get more ingrained into the athletic department at Valley, that's one of the messages, and that's part of my vision for moving forward, is that we create opportunities to thank referees and let our spectators know that, if you played high school sports and you're looking for a way to stay involved, becoming a referee is a fantastic way to stay involved, a fantastic way to stay in shape, to make a little extra money, but also to stay connected to that sport that you love. So that's kind of where we're at. I feel very passionate about that. I've written articles about it. And it's kind of, one of my, I guess if I had a hobby within my athletic administrator career, would kind of be Thank a Ref and trying to build the referees associations back up.
Well, again, I really appreciate that as a longtime AD and as a longtime high school basketball official. I still referee games down here in Florida. Again, the official shortage is hitting us too. And again, it's new officials that are leaving and it's older officials that are just saying, hey, it's time to retire. I'm 65 years old, and there were a number of times last year on a 3-man varsity basketball crew, I was the youngest guy. So,
Wow.
again, we do need more officials. Thanks so much for doing that. As an official, when we see those signs, we really do appreciate it.
Mhm.
For listeners, our guest is Kenny Edwards. He's a certified master athletic administrator. He's the director of athletics and activities at Merrimack Valley High School in Penacook, New Hampshire. Kenny, we're going to do this at the end of the podcast, but if one of our listeners wanted to reach out and pick your brain a little bit, find out more about how you do things, what's the best way that they can get a hold of you?
The best way is definitely by email, and you can reach me at K Edwards, EDWARDS, at MVSD Pride, PRIDE.org. So MVSDpride.org. And you can email me anytime. I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. But part of the great thing about being an athletic director is that, unlike being a coach where you may have secrets that you don't want to share with anybody, being an athletic director, I freely give everything I have. Whatever you want, you can have. We do something for home football games, which is a game day itinerary, and we put it out there, and it serves to help keep me organized on game day, because football is a different kind of home day. There's so many things that go around a football game, so many different moving parts, that I created the itinerary to keep me organized. But other officials or other ADs have reached out for copies of that, and we'll send whatever we have. So feel free to contact me at any time, and I'll be more than happy to help.
All right. And again, I'm going to guess your information's on the NIAAA portal for our NIAAA members. So,
Yes.
Kenny Edwards, we're going to take a quick break, but we will be back. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to our friends at Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and see how athletic directors are creating world-class marketing content for their school social media channel. You can do it in seconds on any device, and you don't need any design experience. It's so easy, even I can do it. Go to Gipper.com, tell them you heard about it on the podcast, and use the podcast code ADPOD10 and get 10% off. That's Gipper.com. Start creating custom branded content for your social media channel. That's Gipper.com. And we want to say thanks to Huddle. Go to Huddle.com. Huddle is how the world sees sports. Over 200,000 teams across 40 different sports are using Huddle to help their teams play better using video and analytics. As a head football coach, I used Huddle for years, but as an athletic director, our school was a Huddle school, and our coaches just loved the smart cameras, the mobile apps. Of course, they love the analytics, but there's so much more. Go to Huddle.com and find out how your school can become a Huddle school. At Huddle, we believe in sports, and teams believe in Huddle. Join the 6 million users, including your student athletes, and find out how your school can become a Huddle school. That's Huddle.com. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Kenny, sportsmanship is one of those things that I think people sometimes they're either very passionate about it or it becomes an afterthought. And I think that's where trouble sometimes surfaces. For me, it's always been a big deal for me as an athletic director. But what are some of your thoughts on how we can create better sportsmanship at our events?
I think that's a great question. I think the first thing we have to do for everyone involved, the athletes, spectators, parents, coaches, so forth, we need to define what good sportsmanship looks like. And it has to be a very clear picture, and the expectations have to be very clear as well. And I think the great way to do that is at a preseason parents meeting where you bring in the parents and the students and you explain what sportsmanship means at your school. In other words, like, what does sportsmanship mean at Merrimack Valley High School? What does it look like to have good sportsmanship? There's always going to be adversity. There's always going to be tough times. Things are not always going to go your way. And you've got to be able to react to them in a mature way that brings your school to a good light, to brings that brings praise to your school, instead of tearing down what your school stands for. And I think it's so important that student athletes realize that they are being watched, not only by other student athletes or their parents, but by younger students that are in the elementary school that want to emulate their actions, that want to grow up and be like them. So there's a responsibility factor there for our current student athletes that they need to pay it forward, so to speak, with sportsmanship. They need to leave a legacy that lets it be known to other students that it's okay to be a good sport. It's okay to exhibit good sportsmanship to a referee who makes a really bad call or makes a call that he thought was correct but may have missed it. That happens. It's okay to help the opponent off the ground. If you accidentally knock them down or if you knock them down on purpose, help them up. It's okay to exhibit good sportsmanship. And that's sort of the legacy that we want our student athletes to realize, that they're leaving that behind, as well as a legacy of hard work, determination, great team camaraderie, teamwork, and so forth. So, nowadays, coming out of the pandemic, I've heard a lot of ADs say that there's a lot of anger in the community. There's a lot of anger at sporting events. People are lashing out at referees or opponents or other fans. And I say to that, it's important that we talk to people, that we develop that relationship with our spectators, with our parents, even if it's something as simple as standing at the entranceway and just greeting people when they come into your building or when they come into your stadium, letting them know that this is the AD. He's here in case problems arise, but he's also here to say hi, to say thanks for coming out tonight. We appreciate you being here. We're looking forward to watching both teams compete and so forth. We do sportsmanship announcements before the games, just like everyone else. But I think it's important that there's a human side to those announcements where we talk about making the event a memorable experience for students, making it something that they can look back on and remember the actual game itself and not the peripheral things that may have happened in the stands or with poor sportsmanship. And so those are some of the things that we tried at Jamestown, and we're going to continue to try to do at Valley, just to try to build good sportsmanship. I am impressed so far with our student athletes and coaches at Merrimack Valley. I'm impressed with their emphasis on sportsmanship and doing things the right way. So I think we're well on the right road to doing things, the right way and being an example for other schools.
I love that phrase, making a memorable experience. We talked at the school I was at before I retired, and they still do it. We talked about, in a general way, enhancing the student athlete experience in a lot of different ways. And certainly having fun at the games was one of it, but make it a memorable experience, as you're talking to the fans and the parents. Great stuff. We're going to take another quick break, but we're going to be back with some more. Our guest today is Kenny Edwards. He's a certified master athletic administrator from New Hampshire. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to Final Forms for their support of the podcast. Final Forms is the industry leader in registration, but there's so much more than that. Final Forms can help your stakeholders with things like mobile accessibility. They have reminders for parents about policies, about physicals, and all the forms that come when you have an athlete in the house. Final Forms can also help your coaches with things like attendance and communication, and even help with their own certification management. And for athletic directors, Final Forms can help with eligibility, with rosters, and all the reports that come across your desk. It's time that you talk to a team that's walked in your shoes. To take the next steps and find out what Final Forms can do for you, go to finalforms.com/Jake. That's finalforms.com/Jake to get started with Final Forms. Welcome back, everyone, to our visit with Kenny Edwards, Certified Master Athletic Administrator. Kenny, one of the questions that we've been asking our athletic directors almost since the podcast began is this idea of how to do a better job of being socially aware. I know that's a big umbrella, but do you have any advice for us?
Well, I think, the move from Virginia to New Hampshire has really made me more aware of what's going on in my community. And I say, I hear socially aware, and immediately I go to national topics, which have kind of dominated our news cycle over the last couple of years. And that's fine. There's a place for that. But I think as athletic directors, we need to be more socially aware of what's happening in our community. We need to be more aware of what our students are going through on a daily basis. And it's for those that are looking to relocate or to change jobs, from one school to another. I'll give you a little example. When I was at Jamestown, we had 1,400 students, and 1,400 of those, all 1,400 were from one area of Williamsburg. When I got to Merrimack Valley, we're what's called a regional high school. We draw from 5 different towns within a region. So what is a situation in one town may not be a situation in another town. So the challenge for me was to get to know our students from all of the different areas that feed into Merrimack Valley, to find out what affects them on a daily basis, what issues and what social situations are surrounding their life when they leave school and when they go home that might pull into athletics, affect them in some way in school or with their academics. And so for me to be more socially aware, I had to become more active in the community. When we moved up here, my wife and I made the conscious decision, it was intentional, that we were going to find a house in our school zone because we wanted to send the message that we're going to be here for a long time and that we're committed to the school. Well, in doing that, I integrated myself into the community, and I immediately began to hear about some of the issues, became more socially aware of some of the situations that our students are going through. And it's eye-opening, really, and it's given me a different viewpoint in terms of mentoring our students, mentoring our coaches. And I think for an AD, being socially aware has to start in your community. And then it can expand from there to your state, things that may be affecting other ADs in your state, where if you're a mentor to other ADs, you can help them through what they're going through by being more aware of the situation that they might be in or the situations that are surrounding their community. And then, of course, the national issues, becoming more socially aware of national issues, will always trickle down to the local level. So it's important to have an idea of what's going on nationally. I know when I was in Virginia, we talked a lot about national issues when as a part of the VIAAA. We wanted to make sure that we're including the national issues in our minutes and in the things that we talk about in our meetings to try to help our ADs help their students. And so I think there's a lot of different levels there, but it all starts in your own community and being more aware of what's going on with your students.
Yeah, the point that you first made about getting involved, getting involved with your state association. Now, getting involved with the community where you're at, absolutely. Get out of your office, get out on the practice field. The theme that you just talked about has been repeated throughout our visit with you, but it's just so important. Really appreciate you sharing that. This has been really cool, Kenny. Spending some time with you and get to know you a little bit about your program. Looking forward to maybe connecting with you at our national conference in Nashville.
Yes.
But we're not done yet. We always like to wrap up with the athletic director's toolbox. So we're going to take a quick break and hear from Athletic Surveys, who sponsor our toolbox segment. And when we come back, we're going to find out what Kenny Edwards is going to put into his new athletic director toolbox. Please stay with us. We want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack for sponsoring the Athletic Director Toolbox segment. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire athletic program. At my schools, we use surveys for just about everything, for teachers, for coaches, for kids, and for parents. And the information that came back was almost always over the top positive, and it'll be the same for you. But surveys also allow that squeaky wheel parent to vent a little bit. And sometimes they'd share a small problem that you could address and keep it from turning into a big problem because you didn't know about it because you hadn't done a survey. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your parents or your student athletes, you're really missing out. Go to athleticsurveys.com or email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. Let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. That's athleticsurveys.com. Well, we've been visiting today with Kenny Edwards. He's a certified master athletic administrator from New Hampshire. Right now, I'm going to challenge him to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job, but I'm only going to let him put 3 things in the toolbox. Kenny, what 3 items are going to go into your new athletic director toolbox?
Well, I think the first item is, to me, the most important, and that's building face-to-face relationships. Excuse me. That is so important as a new athletic director starts out. You've got to take time to get to know people. You've got to take time to explain your vision for the athletic program. And included in that group is your student athletes. A lot of times when we say get to know people, athletic directors will think, oh, okay, I'm only going to get to know the people that can help me, can make my job easier. And I think you're really missing the mark when you do that, because you've got to take time to get to know your student athletes. You've got to take time to get to know your coaches. Those are the 2 most important groups that you're going to deal with every day. And that's what I would tell a new AD is to really get to know, to spend time talking with them and express your vision and to see what their expectations are for you on the new job. The second thing is, for me, when I first became an athletic director for the first time, I decided that I was going to be very intentional about being great at running our events. And the reason for that is a lot of spectators, a lot of parents, that's their first impression of your athletic program is your event. And you want your events to run smoothly. You want them to be safe getting into the event, exiting the event. You want the parking lot to be safe. So there's a lot of different aspects that go into running a good high school event. And so I decided that I was going to be great at that. So I spent a lot of time studying it. I created a checklist for myself to stay organized. And to this day, after all the years of doing this, I still have a checklist for every single event that I run because I don't want to forget anything. I know we had homecoming 2 weeks ago. I checked the referees for every single homecoming game at least 8 days in advance. And I checked those referees every single day for 8 days. And I had the referees memorized. I had their contact information memorized simply because I was scared that we were not going to have a referee show up. And I wanted to make sure I covered all my bases. So that's the second thing I would tell a new AD is that running events is sort of like the front porch. It's what people are going to remember. It's what they're going to see first about your program. They're not so much worried about whether you don't order the right number of basketballs, but they are worried about security in the stands at a basketball event, or they are worried about, is it safe to bring my kids to a baseball game or stuff like that. So it's important that you are great at running events. And then the third thing, the thing that I'm leaning on in my transition from Jamestown to Merrimack Valley is I'm working hard every day to be an intentional listener. I want to make sure I listen with a purpose, and I'm going to try to draw things out of what someone else is telling me that are important. And I'm going to follow up with questions, and making sure that I have complete understanding. But also part of being an intentional listener is giving value to the speaker. And I want the speakers to know that they're valuable to me. And I'm going to take the time, I'm going to put in the effort to really listen to what you're saying, to make our situation here better at Merrimack Valley with our athletic department, with our school. We want to make sure that we're listening to our constituents and what they're telling us. So those would be the three things that I would pass on to a new AD in their toolbox. Of course, I'm always willing to help if anyone has any questions on those or whatever I can do to help. I'm always available.
Well, yeah, again, you probably saw me writing down those. I love the tools. And again, that event management, there's so many different aspects to different sports. Running a volleyball game is different from a football game. Running a volleyball tournament is different than just a single standalone game. So yeah, spending your time at those different events and making them to everybody that walks in, they go, boy, this was just seamless. They don't realize all the attention to detail that goes into making those things seem seamless. And of course, listening, people have heard me say many times, that's a tool I wish I had in my toolbox. And then once it was in my toolbox, I wish I would have used it much sooner than I did. Kenny, you alluded to it. You love to help, and that's the athletic director mantra. If one of our listeners wants to reach out and pick your brain a little more, what's the best way they can get a hold of you?
The best way is by email for sure, and I'll try to get back to you within 24 hours. You can reach me at kedwards, EDWARDS, at mvsdpride.org, mvsdpride.org. And I encourage you, if you have any questions, if I've said anything that you want to learn more about, like our Thank a Referee program or anything like that, please feel free to reach out. Always available to talk. I will be in Nashville, looking forward to the national conference. So if you see me and you want to ask a question, please feel free to stop me and I'll be more than happy to talk to you.
All right. Well, definitely going to be looking for you there. We'll make plans to connect. Kenny Edwards, Certified Master Athletic Administrator from Merrimack Valley High School in Penacook, New Hampshire. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you very much. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Once again, for our listeners, the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews get uploaded to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We appreciate you listening today. Come back just about every day for new content on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time. Before we go, we do want to say thanks to our partners, We Coach and the Global Community of Women in High School Sports. Two great organizations you really need to be a part of. Global Community of Women in High School Sports and We Coach. Thanks for listening today. We'll see you next time on the Educational AD Podcast.